All right. It says live.
Yeah.
All right. Hi. My name is Tuck. With any luck, this video won't suck. And if not, I'm planning to do this every week for a while, so we'll try again next week. But hopefully there's something in it. And first, hello to everybody. You guys, based on the thing that Patty and I did a couple of days ago, you guys are all over the world, and thank you for watching it, and the comments that you made and all the contacts you made are really, really touching. We thank you so much, and we love you guys. And so anyway, here we are. I'm going to do what I can to demystify my guitar style. I take requests, so feel free to ask things. Speaking of which, before we do anything, just as an example of how responsive I am, we got a message from Kathleen in Germany, and she wondered, when we played Honey Pie yesterday, what was I doing on one chord? So I'm going to show you. Okay, I'm doing this. It happens to be the easiest chord in the world to do this with. It's one of a variety of harmonics techniques that I came up with, I didn't come up with it. I saw somebody do everything. This involves creating the node, the place where you stop the string, 12 frets above whatever you're playing. So I'm playing at the 5th fret, just barring at the 5th fret, and therefore I'm playing 12 frets above. Now, 12 and 5 is 17, but I wouldn't know that that was the 17th fret. To me, it just looks like the same thing an octave higher. I don't think about the numbers. Okay, so I'm going to lay my finger here to stop the string. And then I use my pinky. See my little pinky here? Most people use their ring finger. I use my pinky. Works better for me. And then you just rake across the strings. Now you notice that my hand's moving as I do it. I'm not actually leaving this finger in place. I'm not really doing this. I'm doing this. It gets a better sounding harmonic that way. The less time you spend with your fingers touching the strings after you hit the harmonic, the nicer it sounds. So if you leave your finger down here, kind of muted. Our good friend Michael Hedges taught me that. Spend the minimum time touching the string. Anyway, so these are artificial harmonics. They're artificial because they're not these harmonics, the open string harmonics. You're just doing something 12 frets or some other number of frets above what you're playing. Now, at some point, maybe this will give some illustration of how my mind works. I was thinking about some harmonic technique. I don't remember what, but I know how my mind works. So let's say it was this one. We'll just pretend that. And I started thinking systematically. Okay, how many ways could you stop the strings or create what's in physics called the node of the vibration, where the string doesn't vibrate, it's right in the middle of the length of the string. This is the halfway point. How many ways could you create a node and pluck the strings? Then I just went through and tried everything and found some things that I liked. So in this, I just illustrated that one. I'm going to show you a couple that are esoteric that I didn't actually steal from somebody, but I'm sure other people co-developed them. So here, I'm going to create the node with the second segment of my little finger. You can see my little finger is just laying on the strings, right? And then you can use your thumb. Pretty awkward technique with a thumb. You can use a finger, an index finger. That works better. In fact, you can almost strum. In fact, you can strum. Now I have here what we call a pick. You know about that. I don't use this thing very often, but it's great for this technique. mix regular strumming with harmonics. Okay, so that's a really nice technique. I haven't seen it done too much. In this case, in every case, a tip, since we're now talking about harmonics, absolutely randomly, thanks to Kathleen. I want to make the point that the nature of the physics of string vibration is that you're going to get a better sounding harmonic if you get some distance between the node, which is here, and the place where you pluck. That sounds a lot better than this. The reason is that the string is vibrating in a sine wave. It is stationary here. It's not vibrating here. It's not vibrating here. It's at its greatest vibration right here. So that's the place where you want to move the string. It wasn't a very good explanation, but take my word for that. You want to hit the string as close as you can to the middle of the sinusoidal vibration. And that's why you'll see me kind of stretching my hand out in odd positions when I do this. Okay, now back systematic tuck that day, started thinking, okay, how about harmonics on individual notes? So of course, Somewhere Over the Rainbow is a classic case of this. It's not that I do it on Somewhere Over the Rainbow. I do a combination of that and non-harmonic notes. But here's the technique for just playing the harmonic. I'm fretting here at the 3rd fret, C. To me, it's just the first position marker. And so the first position marker up here after the middle of the string is an octave. So I put the node there with the tip of my finger, and then I pluck here with my thumb, which I think you can see. Notice I'm doing a little bit of an uncomfortable position in order to get some distance between my thumb and my index finger. Okay, so you can play any note just by moving that around. You can. So, on Somewhere Over the Rainbow, I use that technique. However, I combined each one of those notes, each one of those harmonics, which was something just like this on a C chord, with non-harmonics 2 strings above. So in addition to this open G, I played the high E string without a harmonic. I played them both at the same time. Pretty sound. Then I did it with the next pair of strings. You can go right across strings. Sometimes it won't work if you happen to have an octave. Then it doesn't. Then it sounds like the same note. It is the same note. Same note. But if you've got different notes because of the way you voice your chord, then you get this really beautiful sound. And then as the chord changes, you just follow the chord. Okay, what am I doing? Well, the first one I was playing C. Maybe we should tune. Yeah, that's what we're talking about. All right. First chord was C. Next chord, you can name it if you want to. It's kind of a suspension. I think of it as a suspension of that chord. So it's F, G, D, F, 3rd fret, 3rd fret, 1st fret, and the open string in here. Then you've got. So now you got a really pretty sound. what do I do at that point? Okay, now I'm going across all 6 strings. And so I've got to find a nice chord to do that with. The basic one that everybody tends to do with this is 6-9, where these 2 strings and these 2 strings are at the 3rd fret, and those 2 strings are at the 2nd fret. I'm just going across the strings in pairs. Now, I actually got the idea for doing this from Lenny Breau, as did basically everybody else. To be honest, I got it from Larry Carlton, whom I heard play live one night, and I remember specifically that at one point during some ripping solo, he went, and that was all it took for me. It's the only thing I remember from the show. I thought, oh, I see what he did. If that, and I can do it on other strings. Okay, same as, I see what he's doing. Okay, that's cool. And then later I learned, oh, Lenny Breau did this. I'm sure Larry Carlton got it directly or indirectly from Lenny Breau, like the rest of us did. Lenny Breau, you may already know all about this, so I won't spend a lot of time on it unless somebody asks me to, which you are welcome to do. He would play these in a sequence. So going back to this C6-9 chord, he would arrange the strings in the same pairs that I was doing when I played them together, but he would play them in series, an ascending pitch series. So he'd play the lowest note first, which happens to be on the 4th string, not a harmonic. Again, I'm using my pinky just because I'm in the habit of it. You could use another finger. It's not a harmonic, so it doesn't really matter in terms of tone which finger you use. Then you play the harmonic on 2 strings lower. So if you play the non-harmonic on the D string, then you play the harmonic on the say that again. If you play the non-harmonic on the 4th string, then you play the harmonic on the 6th string. 4th string, 6th string. Then you just repeat that pattern with each successive pair of strings. So the 3rd and 5th string. The 2nd and 4th string. And the 1st and 3rd string. Then if you play them all together, you get this nice sound. Okay, that's a classic Lenny Breau sound. He had lots of chords figured out that you could do this with that didn't result in octaves, because if you do it on this chord, then you're going to get the same note repeated over and over, which is fine, but it doesn't work with the idea of a cascading series of notes. It's kind of harp sound. Now, a lot of the chords that work really well are not that comfortable because they're all 6-note chords to give you the full range. But you get the idea, I hope. Then Lenny Breau extended that in a couple of ways. First, he would, let's see, how did he extend it? Okay, we're starting with this note as the lowest string, as the lowest note, but there are a couple of lower notes that are available so you could extend it that way by starting on your low string, then you start the harmonics. And then you've got a couple more harmonics you can add here. Then you've got kind of the full range. Just want to try to play it correctly. to get a different guitar, I guess. That's one of the ways that Lenny Breau extended it. The other way that he extended it was by doing hammer-ons and pull-offs. And I'm going to choose a different chord because that's going to be a really cumbersome one to do it on. And let's just go to the coolest one, I think, which is this. Great sound. So I'm playing. Well, no, I'm not. I'm thinking of a barred G7th chord.
Okay.
And what I'm actually playing is, instead of, I'm playing. So on the higher of the strings, in some of the cases, you can add another note by pulling off. If you're descending, you pull off. If you're ascending, you hammer on. Okay, in this case, you would do it the same kind of concept on the next string. Let's just do the descent. You can work out the ascending. And in most cases, you skip the next string set, and then you do the same thing on the bottom pair of strings. So Lenny Breau had this worked out. He could do it on all the different kind of chords. That's maybe enough about that particular harmonic technique, unless somebody wants to know more about it. I will say that I also extrapolated from that one and a couple of other ways that I didn't hear Lenny Breau do. One is just a great one, which is play any of your regular old jazz chords and just play the bass as an octave harmonic.
Play a song.
Patty said play a song. Patty's here, by the way. She is tech support because what I know about Facebook is not very much. Often I play the tech support role in life, but not concerning social media. Patty is an expert. So let's see what we can do here.
That technique.
Patty said to play a song using that technique. I've done a few songs using that technique. Okay, here's one, which I haven't played in a long time. It's called Early Morning Music Box. And before I go on, the introduction is another technique that I've never heard anybody do. But it's obvious. Now, it took me forever for it to dawn on me, but you can also play two notes in harmonics. Now, check out the technique here. Let's see, what's the right angle for camera? Maybe it's something like this. These two fingers are on the nodes, and I'm plucking with my thumb here. I'm plucking with my pinky here, although you could use your third finger. You can say this basically has nothing to do with the Lenny Breau technique. It's just a way to play two harmonics at the same time. So the introduction happened to lay really great. That's the first chord. Let's just, everything the same fret. The next chord is thing about harmonics is if you miss a few, it's okay. It's fine. I miss a few. Now you can take somebody like Tommy Emmanuel. He doesn't miss any of them. That's great. If you want to see somebody nail some harmonics, go watch Tommy Emmanuel. It's inspiring. But it's hit or miss with me, and it still works. Okay. Let's see. We had another request on a completely different song. How do I take influence from piano players? Yeah. Well, first of all, I played classical piano for about 7 years before I started playing the guitar. And I grew up in a family of piano players, not professionals, but piano players. So I was getting it into my ear pretty early on from hearing my older sister play, and my dad would occasionally play. So I think maybe the consciousness of the possibility of chord voicings is one of the ways that it translated, and the other one would be independence, experiencing independence. You know, typically on piano, at least typically on the level that I can play the piano at, the bass is doing something that's rhythmically different from the fingers. Now, real piano players, of course, would have independence within one hand. So later, because of rock and roll, I was in garage band. There's no piano in the garage. I started playing the guitar, and so it was quite a while after that, I think, that the real piano influence showed up. But I was still thinking on the piano and translating to the guitar for about 10 years, actually. But it caused me to end up kind of knowing the note names. I was used to hearing sounds. I knew that, I was used to that sound on the piano. And I had played all kinds of, in all the different keys and chromatic scales, and I'd learned all that kind of stuff on the piano. So it was kind of natural for me to translate that stuff. Maybe fortunately. Fortunately for me, I had a great ear. And I didn't really realize it, except that I knew I hated to read music, and so I would just listen and try to figure out what was going on and play what I heard. And that has served me really well for the rest of my life. In terms of, to go back to what I said a minute ago, in terms of chord voicings, and seeing the guitar as you might see the piano, because the guitar is confusing when you look at the fingerboard. Nothing's labeled, you can't see. On piano, you don't even have to be able to play the piano, but if somebody tells you what's in a C major chord, then you can walk over to the piano and you can play every C major chord ever played by any human being right away. Play them all, no problem, no confusion. Simple, they all look the same. All the C's look the same, all the E's look the same, so forth. So I remember I used to have to play things, they called them cadences. It sounded like this. It was on piano, of course. And I'd go up to... all 12 keys. That's trivial on the guitar, but it looks all different on the piano. Nobody ever told me why I was doing that. I understand now that those are some pretty useful chords. 1, 4, 1, 5, 1. Okay, those are kind of basic chords for pretty much any kind of music. And also I was learning about voice leading. I was learning how to resolve one chord to another. So instead of going, there's no voice leading there, I was connecting the notes. I was going to the nearest available note in the next chord. I didn't realize it, but that's what I was learning. But I was also learning something called inversion, which turns out that it's really valuable. In this case, I was learning to invert a series of chords. Happens that each one of those chords is an inversion of the first set of chords. So out of that, at some point, I'm pretty much self-taught on the guitar, but I thought about it a lot, and I thought, okay, another one of those things that's really quite simple on the piano. Got to work it out on the guitar a little bit. I'm sorry, but you do. So I learned on the guitar to go. And then I learned to do it with open voicings. And what am I doing there? 1, 5, 3. I open the voicing up. And in each case, I'm going up to the next possible note in the chord. And I got to the point where fingerings didn't really matter to me too much. There might be several ways to play those notes. So I just want to get to the point where I can feel those all over the guitar and kind of pianoize the fingerboard. That's the long and the short of it is that having played the piano for a long time, I learned how to kind of pianoize the guitar, whether it was scales, chords, anything else. The other way that it affected me was independence. Okay, I use independence all the time playing with Patty. In bands, it was less of a big deal. I was just playing the guitar part, right? Okay, great, happy to do that. My life changed when Patty and I met 41 years ago. And now I've been trying to play multiple parts at once. Glad I played the piano. So I learned to do the same thing that all guitar players learn to do, which is keep a bass line going and get some chords somewhere. So I was playing stuff like... Okay. And then I've always listened, so I listened a lot to piano players. Red Garland was a tremendous influence on me with the early Miles Davis quintets, the famous quintets with John Coltrane and Philly Joe Jones and Ron Carter. Paul Chambers, sorry. So I learned that piano players don't necessarily comp right after the beat. This is what almost all guitarists do most of the time. Okay, it's after one, maybe after three. At some point I realized, okay, piano players tend to comp before the beat. Much more. I heard Red Garland do it. So he would comp on the end of four. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and. So you'd get this sound. Okay, that certainly propels the beat a lot more. And so I listen to a lot of piano players, and my comping approach is basically just, I've heard piano players, I've heard how they comp, I get some idea, I'll be listening to the radio or anywhere else, get an idea, go see if I can do it, and try to do it. Some fingering problems, got to solve those fingering problems. One of the reasons that guitar players do this is that the notes are right there, right? That especially on the first beat of the chord, you're probably on the root. It's just a matter of play the chord after the beat. Okay, familiar chord form. Okay, but actually the chord changes in a lot of music, not on 1 or on 3, but right before that, the previous 8th note. So that's why I'm comping on the end of 4, but I'm comping for the new chord, the chord that's just about to happen. Right, here's 1. 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm hitting the new chord before the downbeat of the measure as an anticipation. What that means is you're playing the new chord over the last bass note of the old chord. Unfortunately, I don't have every person here telling me how interesting it is to find out the details of that. So I'm going to leave it there for right now and say, find a rhythm you love and now start to work through the fingering problems. I'll be glad to go into this in more detail if I get some feedback that people would like it. But for the person who's not fascinated by it, this is some tedious stuff. For the person who is, payoff's amazing. You can get it pretty quick. So find rhythms you love and do it. Do I ever play a 7-string? I have with students, hideously confusing. It's just like a 5-string bass to me. I'm sorry?
Charlie's on.
Oh, Charlie. Well, I should just shut up then. Yeah, one time Charlie Hunter let me play his guitar. It had 8 strings. Now that's too many for me. There are a lot of reasons why I should never play an 8-string guitar. And there are a whole lot of reasons why Charlie Hunter should do anything Charlie Hunter wants to do. One of the things that he proved to me was that you could actually play a bass line and a solo at the same time, a full-fledged solo. He does it effortlessly, seemingly, to me. I spent a lot of time working on that early on when Patty and I got together, and finally said, this is not worth the trouble. I'm just not going to do it. I worked out some stuff. Let me tell you, I worked out etudes, and I tried to do it. Forget it. Go here, Charlie. Now, Patty's been writing down questions as they go by because I can't read and think at the same time. Is this my Rode L5 or my home L5? This is my Rode L5. They look very similar. It'd be easy not to perceive a difference. Similar finish, similar vintage, and so forth. Yeah, this is the Rode L5. The home L5 now looks kind of like Frankenstein's monster. It's got circuit boards and power supplies and stuff taped to the front of the guitar, and you couldn't even really put it in a case. So I just keep it home and record with it. It's one of those cases where the prototype became the product, so that's what that guitar is at this point. And incidentally, I have a little Fishman guitar amp that I bought in order to teach guitar lessons, and that's what's sitting out of sight, and I'm plugged into that, which I never play through a guitar amp in real life, but this is another aspect of real life. Benson picking. Okay, yeah, Benson picking. George Benson was a tremendous hero for me, and I used to play with a pick. I didn't play with fingers at all. Basically didn't play with fingers at all for a long time until Patty and I got together. Brief excursion into classical guitar because it was a requirement when I was at Stanford. So I spent a year taking classical guitar lessons and practicing on classical guitar. By that time I had a killer left hand because I'd played for a long time, atrocious right hand, and so my teacher just decided, it's not worth it. Let's just play some pieces because he can get them with his left hand. So I didn't get any technique from until Patty and I started playing all over again, playing with fingerstyle. So along the way, I studied every picking style that I saw, and finally settled on the George Benson style as what I liked the best. And the Benson style. Now, I never play with a pick, so let me make that excuse right off the bat. Now, imagine somebody who was warmed up and was great, and you've got George Benson, right? But the technique is basically similar. And the essence of this technique has to do with the position of the pick. What I'm going to call the normal technique, by contrast, has the pick touching the side. Best angle is this, the side of your index finger. And then typically the flat of your thumb is what's opposing it. Right? That's a kind of normal technique. Right? That's a kind of normal technique. Lots of variations on it, including circle picking. I tried it and spent a couple of years working on it after I saw Kenny Burrell do it. And then I saw Benson. That changed everything for me. So Benson's approach, in most general sense, think of it as having to do with the way the pick and the index finger intersect. No longer is the pick touching the side of the index finger, it's touching the flat of the index finger. All right, it's right in the flat of the finger, and the thumb is now, for most people, somebody like me, it's the tip of the thumb rather than the flat of the thumb that opposes the index finger. Few angles from which you can see it. Now, I can't illustrate what George Benson does without breaking my thumb, but his thumb comes off at this angle. I mean, this the last segment of his thumb comes off at this angle. It's less common. What that means is that George Benson would still have the flat of his thumb touching the pick at the same time that the flat of his finger, of his index finger, was touching the pick. So for most of us, it means the tip of the thumb is opposing the flat of the finger. That's the essence of the grip on the pick. I think that's probably as clear as I'm going to be able to make it. Okay, now let's put it on the guitar. Here we are on the guitar. In contrast to the traditional style, oh thanks. In contrast to the traditional style where the pick looks like this on the strings, in the Benson technique, it looks like this on the strings. So the pick is rotated relative to the strings. That means that the pick sounds different as it crosses the strings, and the experience of hitting the string is a different one to you, the player. So you get this instead of this. There are different ways to make the motion that causes the pick to move, and those will also affect the experience of what the pick feels like. There's an extreme case, which sometimes you'll do, which is going this way. I'm going to deem that as trivial. Let's call that trivial. Cool? It's kind of like a circle picking. It's kind of like what I saw from Kenny Burrell. Okay, that's a nice technique, but it's kind of an off the beaten path one. In general, and I say that especially because there's no strumming with that technique. There is, but you're not going to get a full strum. Okay, with the various kinds of wrist motion, you can get a full strum. So, then, first time I saw Benson play, maybe 1974, 1975 in a club, and I saw him many times at that point trying to figure out what he was doing. I was struck that I could always see the bridge. I'm in the audience, I could still always see the whole bridge. No matter, even if he was on the sixth string, his hand was way down here at rest, and he was simply reaching up. Okay, I could always see the bridge. Now, what was he doing? What was his motion? This was unusual for me, but it's what I call oscillation, and you may have had the experience of reading my attempts to describe this in words. This is what I'm calling oscillation. Okay? In slow motion, we are oscillating. Now, if you lay your hand down, you have to lay your hand down on this side. Your hand's just sitting at rest on the pick guard, and that enables you to make an oscillating motion on the strings. That means that your stroke starts closer to the bridge, ends farther from the bridge. Okay, oscillation is something that can be really relaxed as you go faster and faster. And it can even become spasmodic for like super fast stuff and still be pretty relaxed. I don't know if I can illustrate it because I never use a pick these days, but there's essentially no tension as I go faster and faster. I used to have a little kind of oscillation, a spasmodic thing that would, I could go into hyperdrive that way. And I see Benson do that. However, I learned at some point, never try to put George Benson in any kind of conceptual box, because no matter what you derive from watching him play, you're going to see him contradict that in the next moment in his playing. And that's because he's a great player. He can do anything he wants to do. And I think he simply enjoys the physicality of it. That's my best experience. I do the same thing when I play. I don't worry about it. And I enjoy trying to, pushing the boundaries of the technique, almost breaking the technique. So, for example, I've seen him with his hands suspended up here, looking much more like a classical position. Classical position in that the back of the wrist is parallel to the guitar and it's elevated. Now, I don't do it as much. I of course, as soon as I saw that Vincent did that later, it's probably, by that time it's probably the 80s when I saw him doing that, and realized, oh, everything I've told myself is right is just one possible way, because a priori, if Vincent does it another way, then that's right. And so when I saw him do that, I learned to play that way. Fingers kind of just draping. He has a big enough hand that he could kind of leave his fingers in place without tension, but I don't, and so I would learn to just let my fingers drape. I prefer the other way, the laid down oscillation, but it doesn't have to be one or the other. There's a whole range. It's basically a 90-degree range between laying your hand down at rest on the fingerboard and having your hand in more of a classical position. Okay. So I'm gonna use this to illustrate some rhythm guitar stuff with a pick, which is what I used to do. Let's see if I still can. And let's also see what kind of hand position I end up in. Okay, a couple of things you may notice. You may see something I don't even notice. I noticed them as they went by. Who knows what they were? Okay, here's one of them. Even though I say I was self-taught, which is essentially the case, very few guitar lessons, a lot of my learning took place in bands, playing with great guitar players. And so I got to watch people play great rhythm guitar. So relaxation, I finally learned something about relaxation. So single notes can either feel academic and stiff if you just play the single notes, or they can feel like it's the rhythm part. So I'm strumming through just same as I was going. So if I'm going to play scales, right? Maybe I shouldn't go all the way into. Because that's not realistic if I'm going to be a guitar player who's trying to make people feel like they want to get up and dance and celebrate. So. Okay, it's one of my central tenets, I guess, of my guitar approach is you want to start out with big, gross motions, be sloppy, get the groove to be great, just go for perfect feel, then refine it. You can always refine it. If you start out with refinement and conservatism and the tension that goes along with it, it can be much more difficult to get to a completely uninhibited, loose, relaxed kind of feel.
Here's a question, Tuck. Ki Kan Yang says, are there any tips how to solve issues on picking directions? Do you use alternative picking entirely?
Yes. Yes and no. Yeah, so he's talking about alternate picking, which is down up, as opposed to logically all down, all up, and what's been called all kinds of things. Sweep picking is one of the more recent terms for it. I always thought of it as transverse picking because it went across the strings. So the answer is, yeah, I worked out everything because that's what I tend to do. I'm of the opinion that the best approach you can take if you want to get the best results long run are learn how to alternate pick perfectly without doing any kinds of two strokes in the same direction in a row across strings. Even though it's totally idiomatic to do that. Focus on playing, let's say, eighth notes with alternate strokes to the point where you can do it no matter what the string changes are. Don't do it the easy way, don't do it the hard way, do it the right way rhythmically. The right way rhythmically is down on the beats, up on the off beats. Right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Down, up, down, and so forth. Down's on the beat. Up is off the beat. I've seen a handful of people who do it the opposite way. I've worked on it. It's cool. I've seen Benson turn his technique in upside down. Jose Feliciano played entirely reverse of what I'm saying. So, just take what I'm saying a little bit lightly because reality includes everything, not just what I say. But learn how to do that. And that means if you want to play across the chord, okay, arpeggios, I'm still going down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, right? Okay, the classic thing everybody knows, pentatonic scales. There's an easy way and there's a hard way. Easy way would be start with an upstroke. Because then the string change is easier. Down, up. But the rhythmic way, if it happens to start on the beat, if you're conceiving of that as on the beat, would be starting with a downstroke. So that's the hard way. Well, we don't care about that. We don't care about easy or hard. If the lick is, and this is on the beat, just mind over matter. Just beat your way through it. Get to the point where now let's refine the idea of alternate picking and say what I call rhythmic alternate picking. There's probably some legitimate name for it, but I call it that. It has to do with if it falls on the beat, play it with a downstroke. If it falls off the beat, play it with an upstroke. What that means is that if you've got a syncopated figure, you're not just going to alternate pick through it. For example, there are a lot of upstrokes there because everything's off the beat. 3, 4. Okay, at the very end I went, now I'm doing the transverse picking, sweep picking, but I'm doing it from a foundation of being able to nail rhythmically with what I'm calling this rhythmic alternate picking. Same thing if you're strumming. Don't go. I mean, do it. It's cool, but do it on a foundation of. Okay, Patty has a question.
You'll be doing this every week.
Will I be doing this every week at the same time? Yes, that's the plan. I'm going to do it every week at the same time. It wasn't a question. She was saying that I should tell you, I'm going to be doing this every week at the same time for a while. And so I will respond to your questions. If you have questions, send them and guide me, because I'm wide open. It's all fascinating to me. And also give me some idea of how much detail you want to know about this stuff, because as you can see, I'm prepared to go the full distance because that's what I've spent my life doing. But I know that everybody doesn't want to do that.
Fingerstyle is important to people, so you'll get to that sometimes.
Oh yeah, that's a good point. You probably heard that. Fingerstyle is also a factor. In fact, I hadn't intended to pick up the pick, but I did have it here just in case somebody asked. I will say that going back to the question of how did piano inform my current playing, there's a similar question, which is how did playing with a pick inform my current playing, since I'm a fingerstyle player now. And it still completely informs my single line, my fingerstyle playing. I have always found it very difficult to get as good a feel with fingers as I can with a pick playing in a band, just being a rhythm guitar player. That's what I did first. I had some great teachers. And it seems like it's the way the body wants to move. You got this chukka, chukka, chukka thing going for you all the time. And so because of playing with fantastic guitar players, I worked hard on getting the most relaxed feel I possibly could. And also teaching playing with a pick to a variety of students helped me to tune into like trying to find the most sublime, perfect feel you could, just staying on it and going deeper and deeper into the feel. So now here I am playing with fingerstyle, clumsy at first with Patty. You know, if I wanted to play, remember this? Okay, I couldn't make that feel as good. I couldn't make that feel as good as... That feels way better to me. So I would go back and forth, A, B it. Try to find how can I get that kind of feel out of my fingers. What about thumb? What about thumb and index? What about index and middle? Pretty hard to get that one to feel as good. I use it on a lot of songs. Okay, I think I'm going to play a song here for you. Well, let's tune the thing first. And while I'm doing that, I want to thank you guys for joining me. We've wanted to do this for a long time. I have. And I'm excited about finally doing it. So thanks for watching. Whether you're watching now or whether you're watching later, and I guess we could talk about whether later is actually now, because you're watching now for you. So whatever it is, I'm really glad that we're doing this. Anyway, yeah, give me feedback. I'm happy to take it and go in whatever direction you think. I think I'm going to play a song that you know what? I'm going to play a song that I'm going to go into in more detail next time, and I'm going to play it right now. because I'll just introduce it saying that to me, maybe the most important thing in music is melody. I've been playing with Patty for 41 years. I have the advantage that I can hit the mute button on the console anytime and the music is perfect. Mute the guitar, the vocal is perfect. Put the guitar back in, okay, that's where the problems start to happen. That's why you got to practice and all that. But boy, there's nothing like a beautiful melody, the melodic roll. So I'm going to play a song that illustrates that. You know, guitar players are always doing chord melody. I'm going to play Around Midnight and just try to build from the melody a little bit, but also see if I can't bring that melody alive more than I would if I just did what I learned as a kind of straightforward chord melody approach. So here we go. Oh, before I do, yet another question. This guitar was made in 1949, so it's a little bit older than I am. It's a Gibson L5 CES, meaning cutaway, electric, something. At one time I would have known. And since somebody's going to ask, it looks like there are two pickups. This is indeed a pickup. This is a Bartolini pickup that Bill Bartolini and I spent a bunch of time kind of experimenting with and came up with this particular winding. Never understood anything he was doing, but he likes to interact with musicians, so we did that as a collaborative project. This is not a pickup. We tried to make it look like a pickup, and instead there's a buffer preamp built into a kind of shell, so this keeps the preamp from flopping around inside there. This is disconnected. These two knobs are disconnected. This is the gain of the preamp, and this is the output volume of the guitar. Oh, you can't see?
Yeah.
All right. Well, to say it again, these two are disconnected. This is the gain of the preamp, and this is the output volume of the guitar. So it's a one-tone instrument. Okay, let's play Around Midnight. Patty's doing a great job of directing, but you can't see her, but I can. She just gave sign language, which I don't understand at all. But I wouldn't be surprised if what she was suggesting was that I thank you again and tell you that sincerely, I'm really happy that we're doing this. So, okay, here we go. All right. See you next week.